Arsenal Stadium was a football stadium in Highbury, North London, which was the home ground of Arsenal Football Club between the 6th of September 1913 and the 7th of May 2006. It was mainly known as Highbury due to its location, and was given the affectionate nickname of the home of football by the club. It was originally built in 1913 on the site of a local college's recreation ground and was significantly redeveloped twice. The first reconstruction came in the 1930s, from which the Art Deco East and West stands date. There was a second development. The first phase was completed in 1989, which added executive boxes to the clock end, and afterward in 1993 a new North Bank stand was constructed, both following the recommendations of the Taylor Report, which replaced the terrace to make the stadium an all-seater with 4 stands. However, further attempts to expand the stadium were blocked by the community, and the resulting reduction in capacity and matchday revenue eventually led to Arsenal opting to build a new stadium, to become known as the Emirates Stadium in nearby Islington. After the club moved to the new stadium upon the conclusion of the 2005-06 season, Highbury was redeveloped as a residential development known as Highbury Square, with the clock end and North Bank stands being demolished. Parts of the East and West stands remained and were incorporated into the new development due to the listed status. The stadium also hosted international matches both for England and in the 1948 Summer Olympics and FA Cup semi-finals, as well as boxing, baseball and cricket matches. Its presence also led to the local London Underground station being renamed to Arsenal in 1932, making it the only station on the Underground network to be named after a football club. In addition to its architecture, the stadium was known for its small but immaculate pitch and for the famous clock, which was positioned in the southern side of the ground since its introduction in 1930. History. The original stadium was built in 1913, when Woolwich Arsenal moved from the Manor Ground in Plumstead, southeast London to Highbury, leasing the recreation fields of St John's College of Divinity for £20,000. The lease negotiation also agreed that no matches were to be played on holy days, and that no intoxicating liquor would be sold at the stadium. However, these stipulations were dropped within a year. The stadium was hurriedly built over the summer of that year, and was designed by Archibald Leach, architect of many other football grounds of that era. It featured a single stand on the eastern side, and the other 3 sides had bank terracing. The new stadium cost £125,000. It opened whilst not fully complete, with Arsenal's first match of the 1913-14 season, a 2-1 second division win against Leicester Fosse on the 6th of September 1913. Leicester's Tommy Benfield scored the first goal at the new ground, while George Joby was the first Arsenal player to do so. Highbury hosted its first England match in 1920. The Australian Rugby League team suffered the first loss of the 1921-22 Kangaroo Tour of Great Britain at Highbury to an English side 4 points to 5 before approximately 12,000 spectators. Arsenal bought the stadium site outright in 1925 for £64,000. No significant portion of Leach's original stadium remains today, following a series of bold redevelopments during the 1930s. The idea was to create a ground for London that could capture the grandeur of Villa Park, home of Birmingham club Aston Villa. The Highbury project was ambitious in its scale and reach, the first stand completed being the West Stand, designed by Claude Waterlow Ferrier and William Binney in the Art Deco style, which opened in 1932. On the 5th of November the same year, the local tube station was renamed from Gillespie Road to Arsenal. Leach's main stand was demolished to make way for a new east stand, matching the west. In 1936, the west stand cost £45,000, while the east stand went far over budget and ended up costing £130,000, mainly thanks to the expense of the facade. The north bank terrace was given a roof and the southern terrace had a clock fitted to its front, giving it the name the Clock End. During the 1948 Summer Olympics, the stadium hosted the football preliminaries. For the next 50 years, the stadium changed little. Although during the Second World War the North Bank Terrace was bombed and had to be rebuilt, the roof was not restored until 1956. Floodlights were fitted in 1951, with the first floodlit match being of friendly against Hapoel Tel Aviv on the 19th of September of that year. The floodlights that adorned Dally Mount Park once stood at the Arsenal Stadium. They were shipped to Dublin in 1962. The inaugural floodlit match saw Arsenal beat Bohemians 3-8. Under-soil heating was added in 1964. Unlike at many other grounds, Arsenal refused to install perimeter fencing, even at the height of hooliganism in the 1980s, which made it ineligible for use as an FA Cup semi-final venue. Before the Taylor Report and the era of all-seater stadiums in Britain, both the North Bank and Clock End consisted of terracing, and the stadium often saw crowds of up to 60,000 or more. Its largest attendance was 73,295 on the 9th of March 1935 when Arsenal played Sunderland in the First Division. The game finished 0-0. When the ground was initially constructed, it was to accommodate 90,000 spectators. The Clock End was redeveloped in 1988-89 with the addition of a roof and 48 executive boxes, while seating was fitted into the remaining standing area in 1993. In the early 1990s, the Taylor Report on the Hillsborough disaster was published, which recommended that football stadia become all-seater. The North Bank, which had become home of Arsenal's most passionate supporters, was demolished at the end of the 1991-92 season. During redevelopment, a giant mural of fans was placed behind the goal at that end, to give the illusion that the players were kicking towards a crowd rather than a construction site. The mural initially attracted criticism for its absence of black fans, which was quickly rectified. Populous designed all-seater two-tier North Bank stand, the last area of Highbury to be refurbished, which was opened in August 1993 at a cost of £20 million amid strong opposition from a local residents. The new North Bank stand contained a museum and a concourse with video arcades, bars, confectionery counters, souvenir shops and fast food stands. The old stand had received a fitting send-off with a 5-1 defeat of Southampton, though the new stand had a less auspicious start, the first game being a surprise 0-3 defeat to Coventry City, with all three goals coming from striker Mickey Quinn. The first victory came 10 days later against Leeds United. Structure. At the time of its closure, the stadium consisted of 4 separate all-seater stands. The pitch was aligned north-south, with the North Bank stand and South stand at the ends of the field. The East and West stands ran alongside the pitch and are two of the few examples of British football stands designed in the Art Deco style. The East stand incorporated the club's offices and was well known for its marble halls, which are often cited in media depictions of the stadium, and the facade that faces onto Avenel Road. The East stand is considered architecturally significant enough to have been designated a Grade II listed building. The stadium's main entrances were on Gillespie Road, Avenel Road and Highbury Hill. When it closed, Highbury had a capacity of 38,419, all-seated, and had jumbotron screens in the southeast and northwest corners. Arsenal Stadium was well known for its very small, immaculately kept pitch, which measured only 109 times 73 yards. Arsenal's groundsman, Steve Braddock, and his successor Paul Burgess, have won the FA Premier League's Groundsman of the Year award several times for the work on the stadium closure and redevelopment. The post-Taylor capacity of Highbury was limited to 38,419, while Arsenal's success during the 1990s and 2000s meant that virtually every home match was filled to near capacity. Restrictions, such as the East Stand's status as a listed building and the fact the stadium was surrounded on all sides by a residential area, made any future expansion of Highbury difficult and expensive. Although the club's directors would have liked to have kept Arsenal at a modernised and expanded Highbury. In October 1998, just after Arsenal started playing Champions League games at Wembley, the club made an unsuccessful bid to buy the stadium and make it the permanent home to share with the England national football team. Although at the time Wembley was 2 years away from closure for a redevelopment which was not completed until more than 6 years later. In November 1999, Arsenal decided to leave Highbury and construct a new 60,000-seat stadium in nearby Ashburton Grove. It was confirmed in October 2004 that the new stadium would be called the Emirates Stadium as part of a sponsorship deal with Emirates Airlines. The stadium opened in July 2006. Arsenal's offices were moved to a new building, Highbury House, which was named in commemoration of the former stadium. For the final season at Highbury, Arsenal ran a series of promotions honouring the stadium's legacy. A commemorative logo was designed featuring the club's traditional Art Deco crest from the 1930s, and the club's history at Highbury was celebrated through a series of themed match days. On the field, Arsenal temporarily set aside the traditional red shirts with white sleeves for the season and adopted a solid red currant shirt, the colour they wore during the first season at Highbury in 1913-14. Arsenal's final game at the stadium was their FA Premier League match on the 7th of May 2006 against Wigan Athletic, the last game of the season. The team needed to better the result of neighbours Tottenham Hotspur to again secure qualification for the Champions League. Having been 2-1 behind, a hat-trick by captain and all-time leading goal-scorer Thierry Henry secured qualification, with Henry kneeling down to kiss the turf on scoring what proved to be the final goal seen at the stadium. The last goal scored in a regulation game at the stadium came in a Football Aid charity match when lifelong fan Alan Alger scored a penalty in the final minute of a fixture played on Thursday, the 8th of June 2006. After the stadium's closure, Arsenal held an auction to sell off many of the stadium's parts, including pieces of the pitch, the goalposts and former manager George Graham's desk. Sale of the stadium seats had to be cancelled after it was found they contained trace amounts of the toxic metal cadmium. As of 2010, Arsenal Stadium was redeveloped and converted into flats in a project known as Highbury Square, a scheme that had 711 properties built on the site. The North Bank and Clock End stands were demolished. The exteriors of the listed Art Deco East Stand and the matching West Stand were preserved and incorporated into the new developments, while the rest of the stand's structures were removed, and the pitch became a communal garden. In October 2005, the proposed flats went on sale. As of May 2006, all properties in the North, East and West Stands had been taken. Arsenal's famous clock was moved from Highbury to the the outer side of the new stadium, with a new larger version of the feature added inside the ground in August 2010. At the same time as the unveiling of the new clock, the south stands at the venue were also renamed Clock End in line with the same name previously used at Highbury. Other roles, as well as being home to Arsenal, it also hosted games as home stadium for England matches. 12 internationals were played at Highbury from 1920 to 1961, most of them being friendlies. These included both England's first full home international against opposition outside of Great Britain and Ireland, and the Battle of Highbury, England's 3-2 win over world champions Italy in 1934, where a record 7 Arsenal players started the match, the most players from a single club to play in an England fixture. Highbury was also used as a football venue for 2 matches in the 1948 London Olympics, a first-round match and a quarter-final. It was also provisionally named as one of London's 2 host stadiums for the 1966 FIFA World Cup, but was eventually dropped with White City Stadium taking the role instead. By the time of Euro '96, the pitch had been ruled too small for international football and the stadium would have been ineligible. Highbury was the venue for 12 FA Cup semi-finals as a neutral ground, the first in 1929 and the last in 1997. Although between 1984 and 1992 it was off the FA's list of approved venues, after Arsenal's refusal to install perimeter fencing following a pitch invasion by Everton fans during the semi-final against Southampton. It also hosted the London's Eyes home leg against Lausanne Sports in the 1955-58 Intercities Fairs Cup semi-finals. London won 2-0 on the night and 3-2 on aggregate. Arsenal did not always play the home matches at Highbury in the 93 years they were based there. During the Second World War the stadium was used as an ARP station and was bombed. Arsenal played the matches at White Hart Lane, home of North London rivals Tottenham Hotspur, until Highbury reopened in 1946. More recently, Arsenal's home UEFA Champions League matches in the 1998-99 and 1999-00 seasons were played at Wembley Stadium, as Highbury's already limited capacity had to be reduced to accommodate advertising hoardings. Arsenal's record at Wembley was relatively poor, and after 2 seasons the club switched back to playing at Highbury, not least because since Wembley closed for rebuilding in October 2000, it would not have been able to host the 2001 campaign. Highbury has also hosted several cricket games and also baseball matches involving American servicemen between 1916 and 1919. It was the venue for the 1966 World Heavyweight Boxing title bout between Henry Cooper and Muhammad Ali, which Ali won. It has featured on the silver screen as well, having been the backdrop for at least 2 movies, The Arsenal Stadium Mystery and Fever Pitch. Record scorelines. Arsenal's biggest win at Highbury came on the 9th of January 1932, with an 11-1 victory over Darwin in the FA Cup. The biggest defeats were 0-5 losses to Huddersfield Town in the First Division on the 14th of February 1925 and against Chelsea in the League Cup on 11 November 1998. Final record of results. Arsenal's complete competitive record at Highbury is as follows. England's record at Highbury is as follows. FA Cup semi-finals. FA Cup semi-finals held at Highbury are listed below. Arsenal never played semi-final at their own stadium. Teams in bold went on to win the competition that year in popular culture. In Charlie Higson's post-apocalyptic young adult horror novel The Enemy, 9-year-old Small Sam is kidnapped by a group of grown-ups and taken to a spectator box in which they have set up camp in Arsenal Stadium. After a worldwide sickness has infected adults, turning them into something akin to zombies, Sam ultimately escapes, only after setting his captors afire, and dodging various groups of adults scattered throughout the stadium structure and playing field.